So we're going to do a tasting of honghua, safflower, the carthamus flower. So this very beautiful herb, beautiful red color. See, coming out. Honghua has a really strong smell. This is one of the aspects of working with herbs I think is maybe a little bit neglected in our study of herbs, is to really get into the smell of the herb. So this is actually a very strong smell, and the smell is it's a deep smell. It's has a fragrance to it. It's a flower, of course, but it has actually a kind of it has a kind of deep, almost thick, and maybe a little bit sticky. The smell. So that smell is a yin smell. If we think of other herbs like, let's say, mint, for example, boha mint, that's a very good example of a qi smell, of yang smell. It has a very strong aromatic quality, very light, very clear, without having any of that kind of heavy, sinking undercurrent quality to the smell. So this smell, this heavy smell, is a really good example of blood smell. So our yin smell, and in this case, an herb that really enters the blood. So honghua these are actually the flower petals, right? Hong means red, and hua means flower. So it's in Chinese red flower. It's related to saffron, as you can see. It looks very similar to saffron, and it is a flower, which means that from the point of view of parts of plants, it is something which enters the heart, because the flower of a plant is related to the heart. And of course, because it's red, this also gives us a relationship to the fire element. So its color and its the fact that it's a flower, plus this smell, all give us a relationship back to the heart and back to the blood. Even the color of the herb when it's poured out, you see, has this really reddish quality to it. So the other thing about it being a flower is that most flowers, and certainly honghua, tend to raise up to the upper part of the body. And honghua is very light herb, so this is going to give it this vector of being able to come up. In this case, you can say upper part of the body in the sense it has an affinity with the chest, but also honghua has a strong affinity with the skin. And when it comes to skin conditions, which honghua is going to be particularly good for, it's very good for blood-related skin conditions. So we often see this paired with tzatzao, for example, to treat measles before they erupt, kind of have a full eruption of measles, or even like toxic swellings on the skin. So when you have skin conditions where there is blood stasis involved, you start to see purple splotches on the skin, and so honghua is really good for that kind of blood level skin condition. So that's the lightness of it, both going upwards towards the chest, but more specifically in terms of honghua going to the skin. So that's its light quality, its red color, the fact that it's a flower, and then in terms of its taste, honghua is a really clear example of an acrid taste in a blood herb. So it's primarily acrid in terms of its taste. It has a little bit of like a moderate amount of thickness in the mouth, and that's that blood quality to it as well. But its taste is primarily acrid, and it's considered to be also warming, slightly warming. So the acrid quality is what gives it its ability to move. In this case, moving the blood. So we see all these things put together. We see the fact that it's a flower. That's giving us a sense that it has heart affinity. The fact that it's red, of course, gives us an affinity with the fire element. The lightness of the herb gives us this affinity, or rather vector, of how the herb moves. In this case, moves upward, moves to the skin as well. And then the quality of the taste, the acrid, again, makes it a clearly moving herb. It also is maybe very slightly sweet, and so that slight sweetness underneath is what some people would consider to be very, very slightly tonic. It's usually not classified as an herb which can exactly nourish the blood, but maybe gently nourish the blood as it's primarily moving. And that's why Honghua is also considered to be at a certain dose harmonizing the blood. It's interesting, there are not that many herbs that we think of at different dosages having slightly different functions, but this is one of those herbs. So with just a very small amount of Honghua, like this, which is probably like one gram or 1 to 2 grams, it is enhanced this quality, or said to utilize this quality of being able to harmonize the blood. When it's at a higher dose, even upward of 12 grams, usually somewhere around 9 grams, let's just say 9 to 12 grams, then it has this ability to break up blood, really more strongly invigorate the blood. So that's an interesting aspect of Honghua. There's slightly different functions at different dosages. Honghua, beautiful herb. And this is our tasting for today.